Well, good day and welcome back. Well, I have a dirty typewriter case. This is a Royal Portable from, I think, the 1930s. I haven't actually checked the date yet. It's in really filthy condition. The case is even filthier. The paint job is a little bit scratched up here, but it actually looks not too bad. The biggest problem with it is the drawband and or the spring motor. There's no tension. I'll have to work on that. But this is a Royal Portable that was given to me by a local member of our Albuquerque Typewriter Society. She gave me two machines. She gave me this one and a big, like an Underwood 6 with a cracked frame. And I'm going to give that to John Lewis as a parts machine. But this one here, I'm really interested in maybe this might be a project. Let's take a closer look at this filthy typewriter. So I really feel like I should be doing this out in the garage because this is so filthy. It's just going to get dirt all over the desk here. Unlock this typewriter from the case. Ooh, the case just has a bunch of filthy stuff in it. Oh yeah, and the exteriors of the case, it's like covered in mud on the backside and the covering is coming off, so it's pretty filthy. That's a whole nother project. But, so if I give it some tension to simulate the spring motor, the ribbon vibrator works, sticks a little bit, but basically goes up, and it looks like it types. Well, first of all, there's part of the broken drawband. We'll put that aside. Looking around here, here's the serial number. I'm going to have to look at that. This is an O, a Royal O, I believe. We'll have to see here. Let me get this serial number and look it up on the typewriter database. But in the meantime, when she brought this machine over, the left ribbon spool was hanging out, and it was actually bent over almost 90 degrees, and I've kind of just straightened it out with my fingers, but this whole metal spool is mangled. The other one on the other side might be. It's a blue ribbon, but it's really old, so we're going to have to replace that. Okay, so just looking here, so I have the ribbon vibrator set to the black or the top position. It works. The spool takes up. You flip the ribbon direction over, and the other spool takes up, even though it is wobbly. So hey, the ribbon seems to be working. Ribbon reverse, bichrome, vibrator. There's the touch control. Of course, it all needs to be degunked and everything. And then as far as the keyboard is concerned, we have an older style keyboard without the number 1, standard US keyboard, margin release here, backspace here. So flip up the bail. So first of all, the paper bail rollers look round. They're not flat and they don't have any cracks in them. There's no cracks in it. Not that hard. It's hard, but not super hard. I'm surprised. So looking at the feed roller down here, it doesn't really look, there's maybe a slight flat spot, and I might be able to just clean that off with some alcohol and kind of sand it a little bit. I'm not really sure, but they don't look too bad. They're not cracked and dry rotted. They kind of feel resilient. That one looks okay too, surprisingly. The machine is just really dirty. It looks like there are some scratches right along the ribbon cover, but the arm isn't rubbing. It's coming close, so this might be slightly bent, but I think the big problem is that if you don't close the cover all the way, obviously, that's probably what it was. It looks like if somebody just didn't have the cover closed all the way. So I don't know if I'll be able to polish out those scratches or not, but that's about the only cosmetic problem I see with this machine, actually. So the only other thing I really see is, okay, the line spacing selector. It goes one click on the single line. It doesn't want to pop back. It is spring-loaded. I think it's just all gunked up in here. So, yeah, I think it's just really dirty, and the machine just needs to be thoroughly cleaned and degreased, and then we can see where we're at with it. Now, since the drawband is broken, one of the questions I do have is if the spring motor is working, and so as I turn it this way, I can definitely feel spring tension building up. So replace the drawband, and it looks like that thing will be working. I'm going to test and see if this typewriter basically functions even before putting a replacement drawband in or anything else. I'm just going to push the carriage toward the left, and let's see what happens. Well, you know, it actually looks surprisingly good, considering it's the original or whatever, an old ribbon, and it's not bad. It looks like a nice little typeface. Okay, so I've gone ahead and finished dusting out the typewriter with compressed air and some brushes. I got a lot of crumbs and dust and dirt out of it. It looks pretty clean now, dry-wise, but now I'm going to degrease the segment area with some lacquer thinner and compressed air. And I'm working outside, so it's pretty well ventilated. Okay, well, I've done most of the degreasing of the segment. Most of the type bar levers are pretty well unstuck. I have a couple that are a little bit intermittent, but I think right now the machine is clean enough that I'll probably take it inside now, and I'll just do some spot cleaning and start just cleaning up everything and just trying to do a long process of cleaning. This doesn't take a few minutes. You have to take hours and hours, clean just all the little mechanical details in it and on the mechanical chassis as well as the body. A professional typewriter servicer back in the day probably had a tank. You would pull the chassis out, put it in a chemical tank, clean the whole chassis that way. I don't have that, so I'm kind of doing it this way, blowing it out with a compressor, using a squirt bottle with lacquer thinner and compressed air, and then spot cleaning everything by hand. Takes a lot longer, but you can pretty much achieve similar results with less equipment needed. Okay, let's go in and start spot cleaning. Well, so I've done the initial cleanup. I've dusted and brushed out all the particles out of the machine as best as I could, and then I hit the segment and a lot of the linkages with lacquer thinner. Did a fairly good job of that. I do still have some sticky type bars, individual ones that I need to address. But the next thing I wanted to do is to get the drawband replaced, because the way it is now with the carriage just kind of flopping around, it's really hard to test the type bars for stickiness when you have to use one hand to give it some spring tension. So we're going to replace the drawband, and that represents a challenge because you have to find a draw cord of the right size. Well, I removed both parts of the drawband, the string, and so now I can measure it, and it'll give me an idea of how to tie a new one from a piece of string. And the knot in the end of the drawband string goes into this little notch right here, whereas the looped end of the drawband loops around this bracket on the bottom of the right end of the carriage. So the challenge with the drawband is the end of the cord has to be knotted, and the knot has to be small enough to fit through this little hole in the side of the drum, the spring drum itself. And the challenge is, of course, it also has to be a strong enough cord and durable enough. So I had some hemp cord that I just tried. I tied a knot in it, and you can see the size of the knot is much bigger than what will go through the hole. And also, this kind of hemp cord is not braided as well, and it has all these natural fibers, and this cord is going to deteriorate quickly over time. It's not really the right kind of cord for it. So I went to Joann's Fabrics, and I found some jewelry cords, jewelry laces. This is 1 millimeter, and it's very similar in size and kind of the color. And I think this is going to work with a knot. So I went to my local hardware store, and in the United States, a lot of the hardware stores have this K&S Engineering metal parts. And this is piano wire, music wire. This is .032 sized. I think this is going to be thin enough and stiff enough that I can bend a hook in the end of it and then I can feed this wire underneath the platen and then hook the end of the drawband and pull it through to the right side of the carriage. On your left is the original cord and knot. On the right is the knot I tied in the new cord. So I'm going to go ahead and make a drawband of the right length, and then we'll see if I can fit it onto the machine. I have the knotted end taped down, and I'm going to measure 14.5 inches, and I'm going to put a red mark with my pin, and this is where I want the loop to end at. Okay, so the original drawband had double knots on the loop end because you don't want the loop slipping. Otherwise, the drawband ends up changing its length. So I made my loop a little longer, but the overall length of the drawband is the same. Here's my little red mark for the 14.5 inches, and I had to put like 3 knots on it so it wouldn't slip, but hopefully that will be okay. Now the fun part is getting it installed into the typewriter. Okay, so this is my piano wire hook wire. So I have a hook bent in the working end of it, and then I have a little finger hook on the other end that can operate it. And the wire is longer than the carriage is, so I should be able to have no problem feeding it through and grabbing it, I hope. Okay, so I have to be able to feed the drawstring down through the carriage underneath the 2 bearing rails to where the spring motor is back in there that you probably can't see right now. Let's see here. Back in there is the spring motor hook right here. I have the drawband wrapped around the drum, and now I'm going to move the carriage to the other side. Okay, so I just anchored it to the little hook here, going through the back here and turning the spring clockwise. So now I'm going to start spot cleaning and degreasing all the mechanism because I don't have the ability to take the chassis out and dunk it in a chemical tank. So I'm going to spot clean the whole typewriter as best as I can, degrease it with alcohol and or lacquer thinner, do some light lubrication in places that might need it, like the carriage, bearing rails, these right here that I'm cleaning, etc., etc. So these inlaid painted surfaces like this paper scale and the arrow here on the ribbon cup, you don't want to hit those with alcohol. It'll dissolve the paint. I prefer to hit it with some of the liquid automotive wax with a Q-tip or a soft cloth. You could actually use a little bit of penetrating oil like WD-40 with a cotton swab. It'll actually clean the dirt off quite nicely and preserve the paint as well. Well, so I have flushed the segments and all the linkages out with penetrating oil followed by isopropyl alcohol, and it looks like all the keys are working good now and nothing is hanging up. And actually the ribbon drive system looks like it's working good too. I have not actually cleaned or lubricated the drive shafts and other parts associated with the ribbon drive system. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to hit some penetrating oil with it and then follow it with alcohol and flush it out and make sure that the ribbon is able to reverse itself as it needs to be. So I'm noticing that the upper part of the parentheses is slightly shaded, so I think I need to do an uppercase and then a lowercase on feet in motion adjustment. So the position of the uppercase shifting is controlled with a set screw here and on the other side of the carriage. And then the lowercase position is adjusted here and on the other side of the carriage as well. And we want to adjust both sides, upper and lowercase, evenly on the right and left sides. Okay, so here I was adjusting the, first of all I adjusted the uppercase so the parentheses and the fractions were printing evenly. And then I adjusted the lowercase here to match the uppercase. So now that the machine is getting closer to being done, I'm going to start waxing the finish with this Renaissance wax. I've had some good results with it, and hopefully it'll bring out a good permanent shine in the body. think? It's a far cry from where we started for sure. But when I first saw it, I said, you know what, that looks like it could have potential, provided it's mechanically sound, which it was. Of course, it was badly gummed up, as you would expect due to its age. Cleaned up really nice. So I wanted to take you through the whole process of how I go about starting with an old dirty typewriter and cleaning it up to the condition that it is now. Of course, it helps to have a machine with good bones and something where there isn't anything really busted on it. It was just really filthy, dirty, needed cleaning, degreasing, etc. So the dusting out, brushing out, blowing out compressed air, the chemical fleshing of the segment and all the tight spaces, and then putting a basic protective coating of carb wax on the outside of the paint just to protect it while I do the rest of it, and then the spot cleaning, the degreasing, the penetrating oil, the alcohol, all in the little tight crevices and everything, and replacing the drawband, all of that, and then the finishing touches, doing the adjustments on the type alignment, in this case the on-feed in motion, and it's just working really well. I'm very surprised with how well it came out. And it really does make you love these old machines because they were built with good materials, good design, good bones, as we say. So when you do fix them up good, you have a good machine. And when they're like this, when they're in really good cosmetic shape, they're not only a joy to type on, but they're a joy to look at as well. And that is the added benefit of these machines. Again, this is a Royal O from 1938. That was the last year, I believe, they made the Royal O before they went to the P models. So a wonderful little machine, but the case, of course, is still in terrible shape. I haven't even touched it. It's caked in dirt and mud, and the leather covering on the outside of the case is really tattered in bad shape. So I'm going to have to do a lot of cleaning on that box before it becomes a usable storage case for this typewriter. But in the meantime, I'm going to be putting this through its paces in the next couple weeks. This is really why we like to do these things. We like to collect and restore typewriters is because we love typing and creating with them. And I wish you the very best with your writing, your creativity, your typewriter hobby if you have one. In any event, have yourselves a great day. Stay creative and bye-bye for now.